Thank you everyone for participating in today's webinar on peer-to-peer support. We are pleased today to be joined by our speaker, Jason Balgopal, I'm going to get that wrong, who is our Assistant Crown Attorney and is going to be speaking on the work that he's been doing on peer-to-peer support and talking about from his work on a personal level as also with his engagement in the community. I just want to remind everybody that the webinar today, that any of the information or opinions expressed today are not those that are representative from the Ontario government. They are from us as individuals that are engaged in the presentation today. Before I begin, I would like to give our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territory of a number of First Nations. We acknowledge their stewardship of this land throughout the ages. We seek a new relationship with the original peoples of this land, one that is based in honor and deep respect. Before we begin, I'd like to give a few housekeeping items. One, I just wanted to make people aware that unfortunately we were not able to secure the ASL interpreters for today. They are extremely busy and booked, so we have turned on the closed caption option, so you can turn that on your own computers. At the bottom it says closed caption, so you have the opportunity to turn that on or off on your own computers. So just as a reminder, everybody will be muted during the session, but we will be taking questions and answers at the end of the session. So just as a reminder, you can put those in the Q&A box. We do encourage you to make comments or suggestions or share information in the chat box as we go through. We will be recording the session today, which will be posted on our website probably tomorrow, where you can download information and resources or information that's shared from today's session. I do want to bring to attention a new feature that we actually are providing in terms of evaluations. Sometimes people aren't able to either connect to the survey link. We're providing different options for people. So we've developed a new QR code. So if you take your cell phone, take the camera and scan the QR code that you see on the screen, it'll come up with a little message. You can click that and it will take you to our SurveyMonkey link. There will be a follow-up email with the link as well as that pop-up notice at the end of our session today. I will bring this up at the end of today's session, so if you aren't able to get it now, you can also get it later as well. Just wanted to give people a reminder that this is something new that we are incorporating into our sessions. Just also a little note on privacy and confidentiality. As you know, webinars that we do record and with other people participating are a public forum. So if you have any personal information that you want to keep confidential, please note that this is a public forum. But if you have circumstances that you would like to reach out to us personally, we do have our contact information at the end of the webinar today, where you can reach out to us and have more of a one-to-one discussion if you wanted to talk about something more on a personal level. For those who are joining us for the first time, just a little background about who we are. Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario has a vision where we want to make sure that all seniors are safe, have a voice, and feel respected in our communities across our province. And we do this through the work in our community levels from across communities, in delivering education, working with our stakeholders, working with seniors, providing education, collaborating with our community partners to increase our response and coordination in terms of response. And we are, our organization implements Ontario's strategy to combat elder abuse, and we've been doing that in partnership with the Ontario government since 2003. So this strategy is funded through the Ontario government, through the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility. So we are accountable to them in developing and our yearly goals, as well as implementing that strategy to our community to ensure that we reach that mission and response to seniors who may be at risk or experiencing abuse. And then within that strategy, there are those 3 priorities, as I mentioned: public education awareness, that training to frontline professionals, and the coordination of services. You can find more information on the strategy on our website. We're always available to do education and training. You can go find a request form on our website to make it easy and accessible for people to do that request. We have just recently changed the forms to make it a little bit more accessible. So it gives me great opportunity to introduce our guest speaker today. Jason is as I mentioned, he's the assistant Crown attorney. He's a graduate from Osgoode Hall Law School, and an Ontario lawyer. And he was called to the bar in 1999. He has been practicing exclusively in criminal law since 2003, and has been the assistant Crown attorney in the Scarborough office since 2004. He appeared in all levels of court in Ontario and has conducted all manners of prosecutions, including murder trials and dangerous offender applications. He's also a member of the elder abuse consultation team in Toronto and has presented many times on elder abuse situations. He's also a member of the Scarborough Human Services and Justice Coordinating Committee, which helps coordinate various services against different organizations and the diverse population. And what really brings Jason today also is not only his expertise within the legal area, but also his work within the mental health field. So at a lengthy challenge with depression after getting better headspace for himself, he wished to give back to the community, which had supported him. So in 2015, he created the Mental Wellness Peer Support Program and has been operating that since, and even through COVID. So we're hoping that we learn a lot from him today in his presentation that he's going to share with us. And I am going to stop my screen share and allow him to start his. So with great pleasure, Jason, we welcome you to share your experiences with our colleagues who have joined us today. I know we have so much to learn from you, from not only, as you say, your personal work, as well as your work in the community. So I'll let you take it over. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rayanne. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all of you for being here today. I think this is an important topic, and my sense is, because you're here looking at this today, you think so too. So just really wanted to say how excited I am to present to you, and let's dive right into this. I've got a bit of a PowerPoint presentation. I'll share that with you now, and then we'll stop it at various times so I can explain a few more things. First off, wanted to start off with the first slide. Of course, then it doesn't show up. There we go. And we're going to be talking today about peer support, how it can help you as somebody who may be supporting an elder person, and how it can also help the seniors themselves. Of course, a little bit about myself. Rayanne's already read out my description about my background. It's quite true. I am a lawyer and have been an assistant Crown attorney for quite a while, but I also have a real affinity for our seniors. I've always enjoyed talking with them. I've always made a connection with them. And since 2007, I've been a member, as Rayanne said, of the Elder Abuse Consultation Team in Toronto, which is a fantastic team which brings together a variety of disciplines, PSWs, psychiatrists, therapists, myself, Crown attorney, police officers, so that we can discuss when there are difficult situations in our community dealing with our elders, how best to deal with them. And it's all done on a confidential basis so that nobody actually deals with the name of the individual. We just talk about them as a case. But in addition, I'm also a peer. And I want to explain a little bit about what a peer is. This is all from my experience, but from my experience, a peer is somebody who's walked a mile in your shoes, somebody who has a sense of what's going on in your life, and somebody who has empathy. Somebody who's a feeling for what's happening with you and may be able to help. Now, peer support can come in so many different facets. It can be as simple as talking to a colleague, talking to a friend, talking to somebody in need, and just going out for a coffee or drink with them, a phone call with them. Those are fantastic and really informal ways of supporting somebody. And the informality of that kind of peer support is important. I'll talk just in a little bit about the more formalized aspects of some peer support, but the informal aspects are really important. They provide just as many of the benefits as formal settings. Benefits such as allowing the other person to know that they're not alone, allowing the other person to get off their chest what is bothering them, and do it in an environment where they know they want to be listened to. It can be one-on-one. It can be informally like that. It can be a group of people, but it can also be more structured. And the greater experience I have is in a structured meeting. For me, as Rayanne alluded to in the description of myself, I have started what's called the mental wellness peer support groups. And those groups are 1 hour long, and specifically 1 hour long because, people want to have a sense of when they're going to be able to get out of here. Our presentation today is supposed to end at 2 o'clock, so you're going to be able to go out and do the next thing you have on your task. And that's important. That I felt when I started these organizations up. People also have an opportunity, as I said, to get off of their chest what's bothering them. In our groups, we don't make anybody share. Being there is simply enough. It's a matter of being available, have an opportunity to share, and have an opportunity, as I said, to get off your chest what's bothering you, and also to get feedback. Now, for us, and I'll tell you how I came to these groups in a second. For us in our groups, the feedback is not what somebody should or shouldn't do, because the groups that I deal with, by and large, the mental wellness support groups, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't feel I have the expertise to be able to tell you what you should or shouldn't do as a doctor might. But what I can do, and I think is quite reasonable, is to let you know what worked well for me. And that's one of the biggest aspects of the feedback that people get in our groups, is an opportunity to hear what worked well for somebody else. The other, as I mentioned earlier, is empathy. And it's really important. A lot of the difficulties that I had, and I'll get to it in just a second, didn't get solved by talking to my wife or my family members, because quite frankly, after a while, they say, oh gosh, I know you're hurting, Jason, but I don't know what to do for you. And I got certainly a sense after a while that it was just burning out my welcome. And that didn't help me, and it didn't help my family. And that's one of the real important things about the peer support model, is that the people who attend there to help other people are doing so with a desire to help, and they're willing to listen to you. Now, the meetings don't just organically happen. And that's one of the challenges between a sort of a free-form organic meeting, go for coffee with somebody, and more of a structured meeting. Because we'll easily have 7, 8, 9 people in a meeting, can't have everybody chatting at once, especially now that we had to go to Zoom with the pandemic. So we have a facilitator, and the facilitator's job is quite easy. It's just making sure that we've got air traffic control. Okay, Jason, thank you very much for sharing. Would you like some feedback? No? Okay, no problem. Bill, would you like to share next? Very simply about that. Now, let me tell you a little bit about how I got to here. And I'll stop the sharing now so I can just talk directly to you. So back in 2004, I started getting into a bad case of depression. And that depression lasted for about 10 years. I got a lot of help, and I was very fortunate. I had a psychiatrist, I had a therapist. At times I was on medication. I read a lot of books. And as I said, I burnt my family out to a certain degree in trying to have them help solve my problems, which they didn't have the skills or the background to do. Now, I was very fortunate through all of those interventions and through all of those supports, and there were many. When I look at support, I don't look at it as one single panacea for you. It's not a silver bullet in any kind of support, whether it's a support for a mental wellness issue, or whether it's a support for people helping elder people, or for the elderly themselves. I liken that support to a web of support. There are many threads in that web. For me, with the mental health issues, the web included, as I said, the therapist and the psychiatrist and the medication and all of those things, exercise. One of the most important things that I did find that I was missing was this ability to talk to other people. as much as my psychiatrist knew the technical aspects about depression and anxiety, I didn't really get the feeling that she had actual lived experience with it herself, that she had gone through this. And so for me, one of the things that I needed to be able to talk to peers, other people who'd gone through this. And there just wasn't anything out there back in 2015 that I could find which solved that need. So the old, saw about turning lemons into lemonade and helping yourself, I also wanted to give back to the community that had helped me. And so I started these peer support groups. And they've been very successful. We last year provided service to almost 2,000 client meetings. We have over 700 people in our meetup group. We use meetup as a way, almost a sign-up sheet. You sign up for a meeting, you can then get the Zoom codes for that meeting, and you just show up and you're here like this with a variety of other people. Let me provide you a little more detailed information about how the groups actually run and what you can see about them. As you see there, our groups are by and large run by Zoom. We do have, most recently, because the changing of the pandemic and the restrictions, we were able to reopen one of our in-person meetings, and that is really got high demand. We're having 12, 13 people attend at a time, and that's a lot. We're not talking a cast of thousands, because you can't have a meeting like that. When you get up to 10, 12 people for a 1-hour meeting, it's very hard to let everybody have an opportunity to share. So we try and offer more meetings rather than having larger single meetings. But our meetings are done online, and I encourage anybody out there, if they want, to sign up for our meetings. We service all kinds of people with all kinds of challenges: anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, hoarding issues, you name it. I'm surprised at how there's almost somebody who has a very similar challenge in one of our meetings every night. But this structure also can work for any other kind of peer support. This structure can work for you if you are supporting elderly people, if you are a PSW, if you're a healthcare worker and you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling, I just got to talk to somebody else who has a sense of what's going on in my life. Go out for coffee, get a group of people together, start up a peer support group. Now, we started up as a once a month meeting, because that's all I thought there was going to be demand for. And within a week, people were saying, can we get another one next week? Because we want to have this again. And so it went very quickly into a growth. And a little more information. There we go. Oops. There we go. We've been so successful that we've been able to take some of the donation money that we've gotten from a variety of organizations, such as the Rotary Club, and we've been able to partner with a healthcare providing organization called Nexum. And now we offer free professional therapy. And so people who come to our meetings are able to get sign up on our waiting list for 5 sessions of free therapy with a professional therapist. Why do I tell you this? Well, first of all, obviously to encourage you to join our meetings, and we're happy to provide that service for you, but also to let you know that if you want to start up your own meetings, your own peer support meetings, this is how you can grow it ultimately. Not only just to have peer support, but it can grow to a situation where you actually have real live professional therapy being offered. I'm giving you a little example of what the therapy actually looks like when you get in. I just have to enable the sound. I've got the share sound, all right. I know Rayanne will raise her hand if you're not hearing this, so here we go.
Yeah, my name is Bella. I have challenges with depression and anxiety.
Oh gosh, what am I doing here? How is this going to help me? What can these people offer to me? They want me to share? To tell them my fears, my worries? How can I do that?
Jason, would you like to share?
Me? Share? Okay. Earlier this week, I had to do a presentation and I was so anxious about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I just thought all the ways that it would go wrong. And I'd look like a fool. My heart kept pounding and my head was almost spinning. I was just a wreck. It feels good to get that off my chest.
Thank you for sharing, Jason. Would you like some feedback?
Yes, thank you. I'd like that.
Bill, what empathy or best practices do you have to share with Jason?
Jason, what works for me when I start to get anxious is controlled slow breathing. When I've done controlled slow breathing, deep breathing, it has helped me manage my anxiety.
Oh, thanks, Bill. I really appreciate that. I'm glad I was able to talk to somebody who wanted to listen about how I was feeling. I'm so glad I joined today.
So that was a little bit of a homemade advertisement that we've got developed. But I wanted to show you that so you had a sense about how the meetings actually happen. It just gives you an idea of what we do when we're on Zoom, but also to show you that we've gotten connected with Connects Ontario. And that's a very good tool. If you haven't heard about it before, you can also obviously go to Connect Ontario as their website, but also 211 is a way to connect with them. And they're able to put you, the caller, in contact with a support service that may be helpful for you. And so if you want to start up your own peer support group, then getting listed into that is helpful. Now, let me tell you a little bit about why you want to actually do this peer support business. Like, what is this going to give you? Mentioned briefly that it normalizes the idea about talking about the challenge, whether it's depression or anxiety, or whether it's an elder person wanting to talk with peers just to say, my gosh, this is not working in my life. A physical ailment, my knees just aren't working. Jody, is that happening with you? Jim, is that happening with you? And finding out that they're not alone. It also, as I mentioned, allows people to ensure that they can talk to people who really want to listen to them, as opposed to burning out family members, or maybe the PSW who's there to do the physical help for them every day, but just has their own challenges themselves and just doesn't have that little bit extra to be able to talk to the person. It reduces loneliness. For me, finding out that there were other people situated similarly to me was just a godsend. I was amazed at how much better I felt to realize I'm not alone. It increased those connections with people, and to the extent that I've now gained friendships that I otherwise would never have had. And obviously, as you've seen, allows the transmission of best practices between parties. In addition, people are learning about you, and you're learning about other people. And that is really important to see, how did we get to the situation we're at now? How am I at this? Oh, I find out from colleagues and peers about what's happened. It assists with communication skills. Certainly for people with my field, with depression or anxiety, any mental wellness challenge, there's quite a stigma, quite a barrier to the idea that you can talk about it. I can talk about it rather freely because I've accepted that this is part of my life and I'm not going to be afraid about who I am. But a lot of people aren't at that stage yet. And that's very challenging for them to be able to talk to even a spouse or their children or their parents about what their challenge is. And for older people, if it's not a mental wellness challenge, it's just a physical challenge. I shouldn't say just, I mean, it's a physical challenge. That physical challenge can be very embarrassing. Some of my, my bodily functions aren't working as they used to be. How do you talk to somebody about that if you've never had to talk to anybody about that before? That's very difficult. And having a peer support group where you're not necessarily talking to the doctor, you're not talking to the nurse or the PSW, but you're talking to somebody else who's a senior. And you can ask them, is this happening with you? Allows that communication to develop, allows the person to create in their mind the concept that I can ask these questions, I can talk about this. and allows them to create those words so that when they do talk to the support giver, the PSW or the doctor, they can have those frank discussions. One of the things we stress very much in our meetings is that there's to be no judgment. I'm not here to judge you in a peer support group. That's not my goal. That's not the purpose. My purpose is to support you. And if you've got a challenge and this is how it's affecting you, there's no judgment. There's no judgment. Whereas with family, there's always baggage and there's always a history and sometimes, you know, an axe to grind or something else going on. But in these situations, there's no judgment. You can get off your chest what's bothering you. Interesting last thing, which I didn't realize was going to happen, was how much I've gotten a benefit by helping others. I had no concept ahead of time that I was going to get this much benefit by helping others, and it would give me so much more meaning in my life. So even if it's a group of, you know, caregivers getting together over coffee, even if you're thinking, well, I don't really have any challenges, I don't really need to go to that coffee meeting, maybe you should. Maybe it will actually give you something that you didn't have before, a sense of meaning and purpose to help others, which certainly gave me that support. And I'm really happy that I was able to do that. Now, I mentioned that I read a lot. Now, went to a doctor, therapist, friends, family, the whole business. I read a lot. And I'd like to share 3 books with you. They're great books. And Vivek Murthy was the former Surgeon General of the United States, and his book together is about loneliness and how it happens, because there's quite a difference between being solitary and being lonely. A lot of people can be quite solitary and very happy with their own company and not need anybody else and not be lonely at all. Yet there are a lot of people who can be in a large crowd or with a large group of people, yet feel rather lonely all the same. And so it's a very interesting book about that, but it talks pointedly about how important it is that we as humans, by and large, as social creatures, connect with each other and have that ability to have a rapport back and forth. Successful Aging is a great book. I'm partway through it. I haven't finished the whole thing, so I can't give you a full review of it, but I really enjoyed it. And it does have an important section, again, on that communication between people and how if you want to stay healthy and if you want to age well, then having social supports, both physical social supports, but also peer supports, you can talk with people, is really important. And if you've never heard of the nun study, you really have to look into it. It's amazing what they found by getting just descriptions from the nuns as they entered the convent about what their goals were, what their interests were, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And tracing those women through their lives until they became much older and seeing which of them lived the longest and were the happiest. So I definitely commend that book to you. Now, you're here, you're clearly interested in peer support to a certain degree. So how do you start one of these things up? What do you do? If it's a matter that you're looking for an informal gathering, then when you see somebody in need, just say, hey, Bill, do you want to go for a coffee? Can we get a drink together? Jody and I are going out for a bite to eat. Would you like to come along? Those are fantastic ways of doing that. One of the things that I had to think about, though, when I wanted to start the formalized group was who was it going to help? What's the scope of this? Can we be everything for everybody? And we realized we couldn't. We needed to focus and have it just for people who are either experiencing a wellness challenge themselves or supporting somebody who is experiencing a wellness challenge. And that's the way I like to phrase it. For me, it's not a mental illness because I don't know, where's the action on that? The action is it's a challenge that I want to overcome. And so that's part of the things that I've been working on is the phrasing of it. And when I focused on who the group was for, that's who the group was for. Is what you want to start an informal or a formal type meeting. The informality of meetings is fantastic. The benefit is that they can be spontaneous. When there is a need, you can dive right in and deal with it right away. That's one of the challenges that our regular formal settings for our meetings pose. That people at 1:30 on a Thursday afternoon are saying, "Oh, I'm feeling really down now. I'd really like to talk to somebody, but the meeting is not until 6 o'clock tonight." Well, I might feel happier then, and I don't want to actually go to the meeting. How is this meeting going to help me? So that's one of the real benefits about an informal meeting structure that can be spontaneous. You see the need, you're able to deal with it. But the downside with that is you have to be able to see the person. You have to be able to connect with them and know that they need support then and there. And if you, like me, are working in a variety of different ways since the pandemic, both in person and on Zoom, I sometimes see colleagues day in and day out, and sometimes I don't see them for weeks on end. And I wouldn't know that they have difficulties or challenges. And that's one of the benefits of the regularity of the formal setting. We, in our meetings, and I say we because I am assisted by all of the facilitators that we have. And there's about 10 to 15 different facilitators that help in our meetings. And so I consult with them. We approach this as a team. And we've decided that for us, the regularity of the meeting is important. People know that, 6 o'clock at night, you can sign up and you can find a meeting. So I just got to hold on till 6 o'clock, just hold on till 6 o'clock, and I can talk to somebody who can help. The format for us started out as I mentioned, an in-person meeting. And gosh, as I say, we are social creatures. It is so good to see somebody. And when we were in person, we'd have a box of tissues because we'd certainly have tears in our meetings, and we'd have hugs at our meetings when needed. And you can't do that on Zoom. And that can be really challenging. For us, when we did go to Zoom, we did ask people to make sure that they put their video on, because there's something a little disconcerting, when the person's video stops like that. And you don't see their face. And what are they doing behind the screen? Are they paying attention? Have they walked away? Are they engaged? That does cause challenges for some of the clients, some of the members who want to come to our meetings, because as I mentioned earlier, talking about mental wellness challenges is very difficult for some people, and they don't feel comfortable doing that. For somebody who perhaps is in an elderly situation, it may not be needed that you have the video on all the time. We wanted to ensure that everybody at the meeting felt that the other people were engaged. We didn't want them to feel nobody's listening to me, and that was really important. But if your meeting is one where you've got a variety of colleagues that you all know ahead of time, and you've got that rapport of trust that you know that they're going to be paying attention, perhaps you don't need the video format, maybe in the audio format. Could be by Zoom, could be just on a telephone. For us, we found that Zoom is a very easy, versatile, and fast system. You're able to get on easily. And as I mentioned, we use the Meetup group just as a way to sign up, and then the Zoom codes are there. What I would definitely say, though, is just do it. You can't go wrong. As long as people know that you're volunteering, you're there to help them, as long as you're trying your best, the really important thing I feel is to get out there and do that. Be out there and be the help that you can. Now, here's some connection points. I'm more than happy if people want to email me. Again, these views are my views. They're certainly not views of the Ministry of the Attorney General, and they're certainly not the views of anybody else but me. It's a privilege to be here, though, and so I've included both my professional email address, but also personal one if you want to reach a hold of me. There's a website there. Both of those websites are going to be updated in the next couple of months. We've finally gotten our not-for-profit status, and I'm very excited about that, so we can get some money flowing onto that. Now, there's a few, I see that there's a Q&A going, and perhaps I might just jump in and answer a few of those if Rand doesn't mind. I see one of the questions is, okay, yeah, great. I see that one of the questions is about facilitators dominating group members. So for us, we're specific with our facilitators. The process is other people share first, the facilitator shares last. And that's for two reasons. One, we actually try and put new people in the middle of our sharing session. So we have a couple regulars to model how the sharing is to happen. We also have a video that we show, just a little quick 2-minute video at the beginning of any meeting where we have new people so that they can see, okay, here is the paradigm, here's what the meeting's supposed to happen. And then we put 1 or 2 people at the beginning who want to share and who know the system. And they, okay, I got it, I know. I got about 5-10 minutes, I can share, fantastic. And then in the middle of our meeting, sort of at the bottom of the hour, it's going to start at 6 off and go to 7. Any new people we have give them an opportunity to share. For us, this gives them a sense of, oh, this is how the meeting's supposed to happen. Gives them also enough time because, frankly, when new people sign up, 1 of 2 things happen. They say, I don't want to share. I just want to watch. Okay, fine. Or all the sharing happens at once and everything that's built up comes out. And it takes sometimes more than 5 or 10 minutes. And we recognize that, the facilitators do. And so then what we do is we allow them to go on. And as we're getting towards the end of the meeting, the facilitator will sometimes choose themselves to say, now, we come to the end of our meeting. I'm the last person as facilitator to share. I won't. I choose not to. The other thing we make sure that facilitators do is go to everyone else first when there is to be feedback. And we ask people in person, like, just put your hand up. And on Zoom, we do the old, with let's raise the hand electronically type thing, because it's very difficult to see if somebody's got their hand up on, Zoom screen. We've got 10 people going, and we have them give an opportunity to give their feedback. And again, if time is tight, we make sure that the facilitator does not monopolize. They go last. Only after everybody else has had an opportunity to share does the facilitator share. Only after everybody else has given an opportunity for feedback does the facilitator give any possible feedback. As far as participating not on video, because we do have people who have asked about that, we have had occasion where we've had an audio only meeting. That is, we'll say to people up front, this is only going to be on audio. So if you want to join, great, but don't expect to see other people on video. And that's worked well. Our Zoom account is managed through me, and I bought extra permissions through Zoom to allow other people to have the hosting capabilities. And I just give them the codes and they do that. We do have a board for our not-for-profit, and we're very excited to hopefully get everything moving forward on that. And when you want to sign up for our groups, go to meetup.com. And what I'll do is I'll just throw that slide back up with the connection details. There we go. And you can take a look at that as I'm blathering on, so to speak. There we go.
I also posted it in the chat box too for people to get both the meetup and the mental wellness links. So you can also connect on, if you click on the links, and I'll post these as well on our website after the webinar as well, so people have access to them.
Great. And it's interesting. One of the questions is about this being a Canadian-based peer support group, but it's certainly not. I mean, sadly, Meetup structures, the way Meetup is structured, it started before the pandemic, obviously, and its way of thinking is around a physical location. They have now pivoted. They include the Zoom connections easily, so that's good, but it's still structured in that way. So when you look at Meetup, it will say Toronto, Ontario, but our group services people from all over the place. We've had people from England, one from Singapore, definitely lots of people from the United States. So our groups are open to anybody, anywhere. And our facilitators are provided with training. The training that we provide them is multifaceted. We offer them training for both the how to run a meeting in both running Zoom, because Zoom can be complicated, also how to run a meeting, how to be that facilitator, how to do things like saying, thank you very much, John, would you like some feedback? No, okay, Bill, would you like to give would you like to share as well? And also we give them mental health well, we don't give them, we send them for mental health first aid training. And just like physical first aid training is not going to solve everything and every ailment that you have, but is going to be an emergency thing if something urgent comes up, such a cut to the finger or a blow to the head, mental health first aid training is just the same. It provides an understanding about what to do very quickly if somebody has gotten into a crisis situation, and so that our facilitators have some understanding about what they can do, and also that provides our clients the help that they need.
Jason, just in building on that question, is the facilitators does that on a scheduled basis, or does it just happen when someone's interested and they're able to get connected right away to get the training?
So the training happens in a bifurcated way. We're always on the lookout for facilitators. The only way that these groups are going to grow and be available more frequently, because ultimately the goal is to have it just like many other support groups, which is, gosh, it's 1:45 on Thursday. I need help now. I would love to see in the future that, well, geez, in 15 minutes, there's a support group at 2:00, and then there's another one at 3 and another one at 4. The only way to do that is to get a larger group of facilitators. Now, our facilitators, as I say, are supported in 2 ways. The first is the practicality. And so we take those facilitators from people who are members. That is, people who have been coming to our meetings and have used the support themselves, and we've given them support. So they've seen how the meetings run. So that first aspect about the training is often something that they're very familiar with. They know how the meetings run. We formalize that, provide them with some support materials so that if, you know, we have like a what if sheet, if this happens, what do I do type thing. And then the mental health first aid training we provide when they're able to. You know, usually what we do is we say to them, here are a variety of different service providers, go and find one that works for you at a time that works for you, and we'll pay for it. And we use the funds that we're able to get from the Rotary clubs, and we're able to do that.
Excellent. I think there was just one other, I think we answered the one question around resources when you just talked about the help. One of the questions that I know there's just, I think that was the other, if anybody else has any questions, please post them in the Q&A. The one thing that was brought to my attention when you were talking was that you have professional therapists available and there's a wait list. How long, if someone is requiring that, how long would the wait list be for people to access that service?
Absent any other information, it's about a month. And that's because, well, that's just a funding issue. That's just, we're just starting this out. I think we started in April of this year. And so we wanted to triage to make sure we had enough money to last through the year. But the therapist has capacity to increase that. And if we're able to increase it by even 1 or 2 more, then the intake time would drop significantly. That being said, when people sign up, they have an opportunity, they have to give us, you know, name and email, because that's how we're going to communicate with them. But they also have an opportunity to give us information about what their challenges and what's going on. And we do at our weekly facilitators meeting, and because we have a meeting every week of the facilitators, just on Zoom, just for 15 minutes. But we have an opportunity there to chat with colleagues, the other facilitators, and say, who's needing support? And so perhaps there's somebody who really needs the support, and we say, okay, well, we're going to get that person a little sooner than we otherwise would have.
Okay.
And I see one of the questions here that Britta Barnes asked is, when are our meetings? So certainly, I encourage you to go on Meetup, and you can certainly look at specifically when the meetings are, but they are by and large in the evenings, 6 o'clock. We have them almost every night of the week, although Friday is a 7 o'clock meeting, just because our facilitator then can't get home in time to run the meetings until then. And our facilitators right now are ones that run meetings on a regular basis. Like I talked to you about, one of those things as an important thing for us was the regularity of the meeting. But one of the things what we want to do when we have just a few more facilitators, or when we have people who say, listen, I would like to facilitate, I want to learn the program, but I just don't want to commit right now, is to have ad hoc meetings. And so that we'll be able to open up, oh, Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, this 1 week only, we've got a meeting open. And that's the real nice flexible thing about this, is that we're able to do that. It's very, 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 very easy to scale up and to scale down. And the therapy is free to do. So our meetings are free. There's no cost to that. People can come for 1, 2, 3 meetings a week if they want. Some people come every Sunday because they like that facilitator and the group of people that they see there. And then the professional therapy that we offer is also for free. And interestingly enough, the therapy, the model that we've got, benefits not only the client, but also the therapist, because we offer the therapy for free for 5 sessions. Once that's done, the client can then sign up again and get back on the waiting list for another series of 5 free sessions. Of course, we're going to prioritize them and put somebody else who has not had the free therapy first. But the client can also go to the therapist directly and pay a reduced fee with that therapist. So the model works well in as much that we're able to get clients or members who would otherwise would be reticent perhaps because they don't want to go to a therapist, or they don't have the funds to go to the therapist, into therapy. And then the therapist gets a potential stream of clients. And so the therapist can say, well, you've done your free 5 sessions. If you'd like to continue with me, we can set this up at a reduced rate. And so it's a very, very positive experience that we've had so far. And I'm really happy about that. And I see one question here is, do we have capacity to run all the meetings? So we do sometimes have a wait list on our meetings. Each facilitator sets up their meetings to decide how large they want them. As I said, 10 people is sort of sort of your outer end. 11, 12 is your outer end of the number of people, and below about 4, the meeting is sort of, you're sort of looking at 2 people. Our meetings average about 6 people in a meeting, and that's a really sweet spot for it. 6, 7 is just a wonderful spot for it. Occasionally, we do have meetings that are oversubscribed and there's a wait list. And in fairness, a lot of our regular members will say, oh, I see a wait list, I'll drop off so that I can let somebody else join in. But again, if any of you are interested, please come out to our meetings. We'd love to help you, any of the people you know. And if you're interested in facilitating, come out to our meetings and we'd be happy to help you get into that program.
So Jason, just in follow up on that, someone just asked if they are interested in being facilitated, would they contact you then or go on? Okay. So that's,
contact me, absolutely. Okay. More than happy to help out, to have a chat with you, see what works for you. And if anybody wants to start up their own peer support group for a mental health challenge, or to help seniors, either for the seniors or for the caregivers, I'm more than happy to chat about that. And yes, the peer groups on Zoom are available to attend almost every day. I think we don't have one tonight on Thursday and Saturday, but we've got groups that cover all different days. Some of the groups are specific to the Ministry of the Attorney General. We've got the one on Tuesday is specific for that. And that's because the ministry people said, listen, we might be talking about case-specific matters. We don't want the general public in there. Gosh, we might find a defendant in there. And so they wanted a specific meeting for that. Now, what that means is the meetings are often smaller because it's a smaller population to draw from. And yeah, we certainly have found an increase in demand from COVID. It's been very difficult for people. And at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of the concerns that people were raising were directly related to the pandemic and how it was affecting their mental wellness.
Was that the last question? I think that was it. Oh, somebody asked about, did you answer this question about the mental health? You saw an increase in people's access during COVID?
So definitely there was an increase in people wanting the services because of that. Absolutely. And I think at this point now, it's moderated out. People are still challenged by the pandemic and certainly do come for that, but they're coming for all the variety of reasons that they have in the past.
Great. If anybody else has any questions, you can post them. I'm just going to show some final slides because I know some people wanted your contact information as well. So I'm just going to flip back here to your contact. Sorry.
And so the peer, as Rayanne's doing that, the peer support groups that I run are for anybody. Oh, here, Rayanne, I'll share mine because I added in an extra email address, if you don't mind.
Oh, yep.
That.
And someone was just asking if this is for just seniors or for people of all ages.
So is that sharing? Yeah, no, so it's for all ages. The peer support groups that I run are for all ages. Now, in fairness, we often get people from late 30s to late 70s. That's sort of our demographic that we find showing up. I would love, and if anybody has an in on this, please help me with this. I would love to get into universities and high schools because I see that as a perfect area where peers, very much peers, who wants to listen to somebody that's got gray hair like me, you know, when you're 17 years old? You don't want to do that. But, you know, you're in university for the first time, you're 18 or 19, and you want to talk to somebody who's been through this before. That's a perfect way of doing this. And it's also fantastic because, you know, in those 4 years, you can have people start off as members and then eventually get to be the facilitator themselves, and it will just turn over. So as I say, there's my contact information. More than happy if anybody wants to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you get into our groups, help you start your own group, or help you deal with an elder abuse issue as far as getting a peer support group started up.
Great, thank you. So if you just stop your share screen, I'm just going to give the following, oops. There we go. Again, so there's Jason's contact information, and I will, these slides will be uploaded to our website, so you'll be able to access his contact information after as well. Just as a reminder, I think people are very well aware that Giving Tuesday is coming up, so we also have a campaign. So we encourage people, if you want to give back to the community in terms of either volunteering your time or participating on your local network or donating financially, whatever capacity people want to engage in supporting the prevention of elder abuse, we do encourage people to take part. And you can find more information on our website. Again, here's Jason's information. So if you wouldn't mind providing your feedback on today's session, we thank you so much, Jason. I think this was so informative, and just your presentation and your passion for these peer support programs, I think can't be said enough. And peer-to-peer makes such a difference, particularly for, you know, different age groups and different issues that people can, you know, talk about, share their experiences and what they've been going through, and getting that support from one another. And I know some colleagues that are online are also that work in the field of elder abuse prevention. So these is something maybe we could, you know, take upon in our local areas as well, and build some supports for older adults, just specifically maybe in their regions to support seniors, because I think sometimes people feel very isolated and alone and not knowing who to contact. And this seems like a great resource and opportunity for people to get some help, particularly if they're needing more of that specialized therapy, even for if it's 4 sessions to get people just back on their feet in terms of being able to cope and strategize how they can move forward. So I appreciate that. So again,
well, I'll just say thank you, Rayanne, for very much for having me today. Appreciate you and Laura Proctor and everybody at Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario for hosting this and having me today. Again, all the opinions are my own, not the ministry's, but thank you very much. And certainly thank all the attendees for attending, because I think this is a very important topic, and I'm glad you're all here today.
Yes, thank you so much for everyone to participate. I know people are leaving shortly because we're almost at our time, but there was a couple of questions that just popped up, Jason. Would these peer support groups not dovetail perfectly into supportive places for seniors? And I'd have to agree. I don't know if you want to add to that. I know there's some talk about systemic issues. I don't know if any of those kind of issues come up in your sessions around you know, access to services, or if it's just personal. I'm not sure if you talk about both of those issues.
Oh, absolutely. Access to services is often a topic that is raised, and it's a fantastic. The peer support is a fantastic method to help that, because people will, again, we're not telling somebody what they should or shouldn't do, but we will say what worked well for us. So somebody says, "Geez, I've been really having a difficult time finding X, a good pharmacist, a good therapist, a good psychiatrist," and somebody else will pipe up, "Oh, listen, have you thought about going to X? That's worked really well for me." So it's a fantastic way of sharing that information.
I find that that's actually really, helpful, because often we only, we connect with those we know, but if we connect with other people with same concerns you have, like you say, the pharmacist or support service for seniors, that some people may be hesitant or don't know what the experience is like, and they can say, they was really great they were really helpful, especially maybe a counseling service or whatever that might be for that person, because it's always not knowing, right? We see a number, but we're not sure what they have to offer. So if someone's used that service or support, then that can be really helpful for them to get that connection as well. So so that's good to know. And is there one last question before we go? Posting the names of the books shared. I don't have them handy, but I will do my best to get this website this webinar posted on our website today. And then you'll have that accessible. You can find the website under our eapo.ca under our website, and under archive webinars is where this will be posted. And that will also, you get a reminder of that tomorrow with the website as well. So again, you'll see all the books and everything listed there as well. So so thank you again, Jason. Thank you everybody for participating today, and have a great day. And again, we do appreciate, Jason, taking your time. We know how busy you are in your full-time work as a Crown attorney. So, and thank you for sharing your personal experiences and work within the community with our participants.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Thank you.